Well, hello there. So today we're going to be talking about Elisa Lam. So I hope you all have been doing well. I have been doing so well. I'm still having issues with my throat and breathing. Here I go again. I said I wasn't going to talk about it, and here I am talking about it. So today we're going to talk about Elisa Lam. The week before, I talked about Kandil Baloch, who is this beautiful Pakistani YouTuber who became very famous in her home country and who ended up being murdered by one of her family members. So the products that I'm trying out today, I got more e.l.f. products. So this one is in Golden Pear, and I also got the liquid glitter eyeshadow from e.l.f. and this is in Flirty Birdie. I also got Marcel. So I'm really loving Marcel these days. So it is waterproof, it has 8-hour wear, and this is a very light color for an eyeliner, obviously. So you want to use light liners like white or something like this under your eye to basically create some brightness. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to do, instead of like, it's basically this, the opposite of a smoky eye, we're going to do something bright. I'm not going to show every product that I'm using today, but I'm going to list it in the description box as I always do. All the products that I use. If you are interested in what I'm using, it'll be there. Honestly, I have no idea what I'm going to do today. I did some research. I mean, I know the story of Elisa Lam pretty well. I've heard it many times. I've watched many videos about it, seen it on TV, all that stuff. So today's story is about Elisa Lam. So Elisa Lam, and the time period that we're talking about, during this time she was 21 years old. She was born in 1991, and her parents are immigrants from Hong Kong. They immigrated from there. So she is a first generation. Elisa, she also had a younger sister. So she was a $1. She was one out of 2 daughters. So Elisa's parents had 2 daughters. So Elisa was the older daughter. I don't know how old her sister was during this time, but her sister Sarah was younger. And Elisa attended UBC, which is our university here in British Columbia. And it's one of our well-known universities. So Elisa was like a lot of young people. I think during this time, I believe she had not finished school yet by the time, I mean, everybody knows the story, so spoiler alert, she's no longer with us. Like a lot of young people, she wanted to do some traveling. And she, I learned later on also is, so she was quite a prolific blogger. So I think she's very well known for having a Tumblr blog. So she pretty much documented her life and her thoughts on Tumblr. You know, like I would say, like her inner thoughts. So she treated it like a journal, kind of just posting things that she was thinking, things that she was feeling, and yes, and kind of her dreams and aspirations, what she believed in. And also she talked on there a lot about her mental health issues. So she talked about her mental health issues on the Tumblr blog. And she apparently was diagnosed as being a bipolar. So she was on quite, I guess, a few different types of antidepressants and mood stabilizers, things like that. Basically a lot of different types of drugs to help help her with her mental health issues. So Elisa, she basically she was like any young person. She wanted to explore the world. She was fascinated as to what was out there, what was out in the world available to her. And I think she was, and also like a lot of people, young people, and even people at any age, she was really trying to, understand herself, and she was really trying to find herself. So as I mentioned, at this time, Elisa, she was 21, and you know, that's the age of an adult, but of course, you know, you're still considered quite young, and of course your parents are gonna be worried about you. So she wanted to do a solo trip to California, and as I'm sure most parents would be, they were concerned. But not only concerned because Elisa was 21, but because of her health issues as well, her mental health issues. But I guess she convinced them that she would be okay. And probably because she was 21, her parents wanted to be able to let go of the reins a bit as well. You can't protect your children forever. You have to be able to let them go at some point and make their own decisions, right? So they let her go. So her plan for this trip was to basically, I believe it was to go to mainly San Diego, and then spend a couple of days or a few days in LA. This was the beginning of 2013. So I believe January. So in January of 2013, she traveled to San Diego and basically updated her trip, what she was doing on her Tumblr page. And I've never used Tumblr, so I have no idea what to call it. Is it a page? Is it a, what is it? I don't know. Anyways, I never used Tumblr. So anyway, she was documenting like we use nowadays. Or I guess maybe people still use Tumblr, who knows? Anyways, but just as a lot of us, we document our travels on social media. So that's what she was doing. And it seemed like she was having a good time. Nothing too, I think, like nothing too crazy. So she just ate like a lot of us do. So in February of 2013, Elisa checked into Stay on Main, which is a hotel that was essentially built from the Cecil Hotel. So the Cecil Hotel is a hotel that was built back in the 1920s, I believe. And back then it was a beautiful hotel, I guess somewhat grand back in the 20s. Then the Depression hit, and it lost a lot of its business. And as years went by, the Cecil just eventually became like a Skid Row hotel, a very sketchy hotel. And it's smack dab in downtown LA, right in the area that is called Skid Row. So a lot of homeless people, a lot of drug addicted people, a lot of people with mental illnesses. the homeless basically live around that area. So it's a sketchy area. But this hotel that she stayed at, Stay on Main, was basically part of the Cecil that they would rent out to travelers that was looking for essentially low-cost accommodations for when they were traveling. So you were in this really central area of LA, and you didn't have to pay very much to stay there. And so I guess young people, or just people in general that were looking for a place that didn't cost too much, would stay there. And so she stayed there, and she stayed in a women's bunk room, I believe it's called. So basically she shared the room with other girls, other women. So Elisa checked in there, stayed there, and would basically, I guess, explore around that area and do stuff around that area, go to pubs, or do touristy things around that area. So apparently a lot of guests that were interviewed later on were reported as saying that she was, or well, the hotel manager, I guess, reported to say that she was acting very erratic, acting very unusual, doing strange things. And she was still, mind you, updating on her Tumblr, constantly updating on there. But she was acting very erratic at the hotel. She was basically, she would write little notes, I guess little post-it notes or something like that, and she would leave it on the other women's beds and say things like, go away, just kind of weird random things. And of course, you know, people were finding it very, very unusual. She also would, when she was in the room and say she was the only one there and the other guests were trying to come back into the room, she would lock the door and force them to give her a password before she would let them come in. So anyways, we discovered later on that most likely the reason why Elisa was acting that way was because she was not taking her medications as she should have. So she was not taking, I think she was still taking some, but she was not taking everything that she was prescribed and everything that she should have been taking. So while Elisa was away on her trip, she would regularly communicate with her parents. So she would call them, I think, every day to check in and let them know, I guess, what was going on. They would know that she was okay. But I don't think they knew that there was anything wrong with her. I feel like she probably, you know, so that they wouldn't worry, I'm assuming she would probably want to reassure them that, or make them think that everything was okay. So, but one day she disappeared. Well, disappeared in the sense that her parents did not hear from her, which was unusual for them because she's the type of young woman that was responsible and she always checked in with them. So the fact that she did not call was definitely concerning. That day she was, the day that she was reported missing, she was due to check out of the hotel and she never checked out. And I think the story is the hotel, they contacted her parents. I'm not sure if the hotel contacted her parents or her parents contacted the hotel. Either way, the parents were made aware that she didn't check out. Obviously the hotel was aware that she didn't check out, and that she was nowhere to be found. But all of her stuff, all of her belongings were still in the hotel, were still in her room. The only thing I believe that was missing from her room, because everything else was there, like her laptop, her passport, her clothes, things like that, maybe even her wallet. The only thing that was missing from the room was her cell phone. So she had her phone with her. So her parents reported her as a missing person. So the LAPD, they came to the hotel, and they checked, of course, the hotel. They checked the surveillance cameras. They checked everywhere, and they couldn't find her anywhere. There were people who reported last sightings of her, and apparently one of the last people that saw her in a restricted area, like an area that was only supposed to be for employees, but she was in the area, and they basically told her that you need to leave, you need to, because you shouldn't be here. But when they checked the cameras, it shows that and it didn't show her leaving. So basically, she never left the hotel. She was somewhere inside the hotel still, but where? And this is, if you don't know the Cecil, the hotel Cecil, it's a giant hotel. It's really huge. So so there's a lot of places that she could be. So Elisa's parents and her younger sister, they flew down to Los Angeles because she was still missing. And eventually the police, they had a press conference. Probably if any of you followed this story, you would have seen the footage. So sad. With the LAPD, they're talking, and you can see Elisa's family in the back looking so sad, and that footage just makes me so sad. And so they could not find her, and they were just so baffled, and her story became such huge news on the internet, everywhere. I wasn't aware of this. I don't know what I was doing. Oh, I think my husband and I got married during that time in Venice. Not Venice, California, Venice, Italy. And yes, we got married February 2013, and that's when Elisa Lam went missing. So that's probably why I wasn't really aware of what was going on. I wasn't watching any media or anything like that. So anyways, so they couldn't find her, and it became like a huge thing online. Apparently people were just so fascinated with this story because it was such a mystery. Like, where did this girl go? She's this young woman, 21-year-old Canadian tourist in LA by herself. She was there 1 minute, and now she's just disappeared. A big part of the story is that as the police were, I guess, checking footage of the hotel to try to locate where she could be, they came upon the infamous video. And I'm saying this assuming you guys know the story, but if you don't know the story, there's this famous video of her basically the last footage of her alive in the elevator of the Cecil Hotel. And the video is basically, it just became viral, and the reason being is because it was very unusual, very eerie. She was acting very unusual. People were so creeped out by it, I guess, fascinated with it, because she's acting very unusual in there. The thing is, there were so many conspiracies, and maybe there still is a lot of conspiracies out there of why she was acting the way she is. I mean, I'll get more to it later, but I believe that she was acting this way because she was not taking her medications properly. So she was having like an episode. But at first, I guess, when people saw the video, it was just so unusual that the way she was acting. So she entered the elevator, and basically touched a whole row of buttons. So she was just pressing all the different floors, and she pretty much, I think, just went down the row and pressed all the buttons. What we discovered later is that because a big part of this, why people thought it was like this weird like thing, like maybe it was like the spirits at the Cecil Hotel or some weird energy or whatever, was because the elevator door stayed open for so long. But what we discovered later is that one of the buttons she pressed, the very bottom button, is the door hold button. And apparently when you press that button, it can hold the door open for, I think, roughly 2 minutes. And that's why it wasn't closing. But of course, at first, when people didn't, prior to them analyzing the video, they thought, oh my God, this is so creepy. Why is the door not closing? Because it shows her poking her head in and out. And also the way she's poking her head in and out, she's kind of doing this kind of weird action of just quickly popping her head out, quickly turning right, quickly turning left, and then quickly going back into the elevator. So it's very unusual. But I don't know, for me, I don't find that kind of unusual, because I feel like I could possibly do something strange like that. Anyways, we'll get to that later. But I mean, I guess it is somewhat, you know, unusual, erratic behavior. And then at one point, this really stuck out to me. So obviously it looks like she's trying to look out for someone, almost as if she's hiding from someone. So at one point she even stands in the corner of the elevator, almost like she's hiding from someone that could possibly walk by so that they wouldn't see her. And then she does the whole poking out of the sides of the elevator to see if anyone's there. And then she kind of jumps out, which to me kind of almost looks very, very cute, kind of childlike. Like she's just kind of like, aha, she wants to kind of surprise the person that may be out there. So it's strange. It's almost like she's playing this game. It's half like she's playing this game with someone, but half like she's scared of them and she's hiding from them. So I guess that's why it seems a bit childlike to me, like almost like you're playing hide and seek with someone. But once again, I'm pretty sure this is just her having like a mental episode. So she may be thinking that she's seeing things, maybe thinks that she's hearing things, who knows. Eventually she leaves the elevator, and shortly after she leaves the elevator, the door shuts, which obviously freaks everyone out, because they're like, the whole time she was there, it didn't close, and then suddenly after she left, it closed. So this video is out there, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, this is the last known footage of her. Where did she go? Why was she acting that way? Was someone after her? Who was there? Was someone there? Was there a ghost? You know, because everybody has this idea that the Cecil might be haunted because so much bad stuff has happened there. If you have like a sketchy hotel in the middle of Skid Row, where there's a lot of people that are struggling, you know, with addiction, mental health, people that are suffering, people that are not in a good place in their life, bad things are going to happen. And that's not a spirit. That's just bad energy. So people at the hotel were starting to complain about the water in the hotel. People that were staying at the Cecil. Right. So the stay on main is basically what they would use as it's a hotel that they would rent rooms out to travelers, and the portion that was still technically the Cecil was used as a low-income housing, I guess. Not low-income housing. It's a place where people who weren't able to rent like an apartment would stay. They would pay a lot. It was cheap housing. And the funny thing, well, not the funny thing, but this area in downtown LA is infamous for being one of the most like crime-ridden areas of the United States, where it's just it's condensed, like it's concentrated in just one area. Like it's concentrated within a certain few blocks. And us over here in Vancouver, we have a very similar area like that as well. We have our own little Skid Row. So where most of the, or a lot of the homeless population congregate there, because a lot of the, you know, the homeless services are around there, like the I guess like the food services. What do you call those? The soup kitchen. The soup kitchens are down there. The homeless shelters are down there. So so we have an area just like that, and it also is infamous for being one of the most highly concentrated homeless and crime-ridden areas in all of Canada. So that's very sad, but that's the facts. So I feel like Elisa obviously would have felt very, you know, somewhat uncomfortable down there, but she also came from a city that had an area just like that. So I'm pretty sure it wasn't too much of a shock for her, because she's seen it before. So Elisa Lam was missing for over 2 weeks now at this point, and they had no idea where she was, because all they know was that she had not left the hotel, and they checked everywhere in the hotel and they could not find her. They even had dogs come to try to sniff her out, and there was tons of people, because this was a high profile case, I guess. So there was a lot of people working on it. I mean, not tons, but a good amount. I believe during this time there was the Chris Dorner situation, like the LAPD cop who went on a rampage and killed a bunch of other LAPD cops. So it was happening during this time that she was missing. So they had their attention go toward that as well. So where people were, like I said, were complaining about the water in the hotel, that it was discolored, it was tasting unusual, because it was the drinking water and the bathing water that people would use in the hotel. So the manager had the maintenance man, I believe, they had him go and check out the water tanks to see if there was any issue, and he found Elisa floating in one of the tanks. She was in there, she was naked. Her clothes had floated to the bottom of the tank. So yeah, so that is the reason why the water was changing color and was tasting unusual, because Elisa was in there. So sadly, now Elisa is found, but unfortunately found passed away. So the police, they determined that her death was caused by accidental drowning, and that there was no signs of foul play, and also that there are no signs that it was an intentional suicide. They deemed it as an accident, that she didn't intend to kill herself, but that somehow she got herself into the water tank and was most likely trapped and unable to get out. So, but of course, there was a lot of people online that were thinking of all kinds of crazy possible scenarios. That she was murdered, that either like an actual person killed her, or she was possessed by some sort of demon, or possessed by some sort of like evil Hotel Cecil spirit, or something. Someone did this to her, and they would not accept the fact that it was deemed an accident. They said there were so many questions. She was acting unusual in the footage that was found of her. They think that somebody was perhaps after Elisa. They said it was unusual that she was found. Oh yeah, and she was found naked in the tank. Oh yes, I mentioned that. All her clothes was at the bottom. And they said that was unusual. If she accidentally drowned, why was her clothes missing? Why was her clothes not on her? And how on earth did she get up there? And what was she doing up there? And all that stuff. I guess one of the reasons, or a few of the reasons why I wanted to talk about Elisa Lam's story is because, okay, I want to be able to, I feel like I'm kind of just spitting out all this information that I know about her story, and I'm not really focused on telling it, like I'm not focused on telling the story, but I'm just kind of spitting at you guys a bunch of information. And the whole point of me telling the story on the channel was not to spit out a bunch of information, because there are tons of other channels and tons of videos that you can find about her online. Yeah, and even on Netflix there is a show right now called, I believe, the Cecil Hotel or something like that. And it talks about the Cecil Hotel, but it mainly talks about her and her story, how she went missing and how she was found. Like a lot of people, I found it fascinating. And I found it fascinating, but I found it to be, like a lot of people found it fascinating and found it kind of eerie and creepy. I didn't really find it eerie and creepy. I found it sad. And the reason why I find it sad is because I believe that the police were right. I'm not sad that they were right. Obviously, you want police to be right. They're there to help us, so you want them to be right. But I feel like it was an accidental drowning. I feel like the reason why she was acting so erratic and unusual in her last few days, and why she was acting so kind of strange and kind of paranoid in the elevator, and why she went to the roof and got into the tank, most likely was because she was having a manic episode, and apparently she really loved going on the roofs of buildings to take pictures for her Tumblr. And so she probably, her instincts just told her to go to the rooftop. And her instincts, and maybe because she was having, maybe because she was feeling, I don't know, maybe she was feeling a certain way that made her want to go look for a source of water. Maybe she felt like she needed to kind of wake herself up or something like that, or she just maybe somehow it's just something made her want to go toward the water tanks. I find sometimes when I feel sad or whatever, like not having a manic episode, but like just maybe feeling a certain way, I would, if I can go to the ocean, I would go to the ocean. If I can go to a pool, a rooftop pool. I remember once I lived in San Francisco and I was feeling really sad, and I was staying in an apartment that had a pool in on the roof, and I remember going there to it just felt nice. I think something probably just made her feel like she wanted to get into the water tank for some reason. Who knows? Who knows what she was thinking or not thinking, but something made her want to go into the tank. And I think possibly after she went in, she probably found it difficult to get back out. She perhaps was stuck. And the reason why she took off her clothes was probably because clothes, if you wear clothes in water, you're going to weigh yourself down. It's going to make it hard for you to swim and move. So maybe she took it off because it helped her stay afloat, to tread water. Or maybe she took it off because she was feeling warm. You know, she could have been maybe starting to get hypothermic from the cold water. She could maybe be so she could have taken off her clothes because she didn't want it to wear her down, or perhaps her body was feeling like she was overheating and she just needed to remove everything off herself. So she did it herself. And because a lot of people were thinking that maybe her clothes weren't on because maybe perhaps she was raped or something like that. She was assaulted, and the person who assaulted her took off her clothes and then dumped her in the tank. But I don't know. I mean, I think anything is possible. You just never know. Who knows? Maybe there is someone out there that did this to her. But just after seeing so many things, I don't know. I just feel like I think because she was having a manic episode, she wasn't thinking clearly, obviously, and she was just reacting off of her emotions or whatever. And obviously she didn't think it through, when she went into the tank, and by the time she got in there, it was too late. She couldn't get out. She was stuck. Because I can imagine it's not like a water tank. It's not like a pool where you can just get out. But I'm thinking they should have some sort of way to get out of a water tank. Like, I wonder if tanks now have a safety measure where they have like a ladder inside or something like that, which I think they should, because not just for her situation, but like, what if there was like a maintenance person who went there to check something out with the tanks, doing some maintenance or whatever, and they accidentally fell in, and they couldn't get out, and nobody knew they were up there, or nobody bothered to go looking for them because they thought they were up there doing something, so why bother looking for them? And they accidentally drowned because they didn't know how to swim or whatever. So I think they should have a ladder inside the water tank, don't you think? Basically, I think it was an accident. I don't think she was murdered. I don't think she was trying to commit suicide. I think she was not well because she wasn't taking her medications as prescribed. And unfortunately, she was on a solo trip, so there was no one there to, I guess, keep an eye on her, to make sure that they took her to the hospital or called her parents or made sure she took her medicine. I'm just putting a little bit of a little line because I want a little bit of definition. So basically, the Elisa Lam story. So how I see it, and this is my, like I said, anything is possible. I could be wrong. Maybe someone did murder her, but I just believe that this happened due to the fact that she did not take her medication as prescribed. So I'm not promoting medication. I'm just saying that if you do have a mental health issue, and if you are prescribed certain medications, you have to be careful and not decide to change the dosage or stop taking them when without consulting with your doctor first, your physician first. I feel that it's so unfortunate, it's so sad that this young girl who was, from what I've read about her, is she's a very insightful person, like a person who's very connected with her feelings. She's very open, she's very honest, she likes to share with the world, and I think she was very creative. So in the Netflix series, they mentioned that one of her on her Tumblr blog, she said that she wanted to travel the world. She just really was hoping that she wouldn't have a job one day just sitting behind a desk. She wanted to be creative. She wanted to be able to express herself. And on her Tumblr, she talks a lot about her feelings, her emotions, her struggles with daily life, her struggles with her mental health. And she seemed like a really talented writer, someone who I think if she didn't pass away and if she continued to live, she would have been a real positive influence in the world. Okay, so my husband just opened the door and I was like, oh my God, I'm filming. What are you doing? So Elisa wrote something that really stuck out to me. She basically said that the human condition is that we feel so important, so significant. Of course, you feel like you are the center of the world, but at the end of the day, each life is but a flicker in history. I just think that if Elisa Lam didn't lose her life at such a young age, and if she was able to, it's just so sad that she wasn't able to continue on and experience the world like she wanted to. She talked about wanting to travel the whole world. She wanted to explore every part of it, she said. She wanted to experience everything in life. She just wanted to experience all of life. And I think what she meant by that was, you know, the good and the bad. She just wanted to feel everything. And I think that's probably the reason why she stopped taking some of her medications. I can relate to that. I remember being prescribed antidepressants when I was younger, in my early 20s. And I took it for a while and it felt like it numbed me. It felt like I couldn't feel sadness, but also I couldn't feel happiness. Like I just couldn't feel. And it really scared me because I felt like it took away me. It took away my personality, who I was, and I was just this zombie. And I think that's probably why she did it. So she probably did it because she was probably worried that, you know, it was somehow preventing her from really feeling everything that life had to offer. And she wanted to experience the world. She was such a person who was, I think, very brave, you know, a 21-year-old girl going on a solo trip to California, and just exploring the world on her own. And on top of that, you know, she seemed to be such a like a brilliant young person, someone who could have really contributed to the world in a positive way, you know, whether it was in a huge way worldwide, whether it was just, you know, with her own family, her own little circle, her family and friends, being someone who was that seemed very strong and hopeful, tried to stay hopeful even in the face of all the negative things that she had to deal with, all the tough things that she had. In March of 2013, where was I? I wonder if I was still in Italy or if I had already been back. Can't remember. I might have just been coming back. So in March of 2013, her body was brought back to Vancouver. She's now currently buried in Burnaby. I live in Vancouver. I own an apartment in Burnaby. It's just, yeah, it's just, I just feel, I feel like I just can really relate to her. And the positive part of this story, I believe, is how she affected so many people. I read that so many people were very touched by her, you know, because a lot of people out there deal with mental health issues. A lot of people felt that they related to her. And I think the fact that she was this young, beautiful girl who lost her life at such a young age, and I guess, you know, was considered normal, and yet this happened to her, it put a light on those issues of mental health. So going back to the area that the Cecil Hotel was in, Skid Row, there was probably tons of people around that area that were dealing with mental health issues that no one cared about. That, you know, people just, you know, go by every day and you know, we don't even think about it. Just like our Skid Row area, in our downtown Vancouver area, there are definitely a lot of people with mental health issues, and probably mental health issues on top of drug issues, running around, you know, suffering, dying, living in poverty, who no one cares about. So if, you know, if a story can put more emphasis on mental health, I think that's great, because we all have to deal with that, whether you're a homeless person, whether you're a person who has a job, whether you're someone who lives in a house, whether you're someone who lives in the streets. So many of us deal with those issues. And I think the positive thing out of the Elisa Lam story is that she put a light on it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pay it forward. I'm going to do what I hope will help someone else if they see it, like watching or hearing about the Elisa Lam story helped me feel less alone in the world. I'm going to talk about my mental health issues. So I deal with depression and anxiety. I have been for a long time, I think most of my life. As far back as I would say elementary school. I was always kind of 50-50, meaning part of me really wanted to do anything that was going to help me feel better, and part of me didn't want to be dependent. And I think that's a story for a lot of people. Part of you just, you know, would do anything to feel better, but then there's a part of you that feels like, if I have to take some sort of medication, then that means I've lost, or I'm defeated, or I'm less than in a way, or there's something wrong with me. And that is not the case. And this is why I want to talk about it. So I've tried different things, and I've gone on and off different things. I guess you just kind of, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people with mental health issues that are the same like me. You kind of try different things, see what works. You start to feel better, and then so you stop thinking that you can handle just, you know, you want to try being able to go without it. Currently, I am taking a antidepressant, and yes, this bottle was full. So I don't want to talk too much about the type of antidepressant that I take, just because that's not the point of why I'm talking about this. It's more about wanting to reduce the stigma around it. So, but my story is I recently have gone back because prior to that I had not taken anything for years. So in general, I think most of my life I was off antidepressants. There were just periods in which I was back on it. And tried different things, you know, of course, reading different types of things, talking to family, talking to friends, and I guess just kind of thinking through things on my own. And which I think most of the time I was able to manage on my own, but you know, I came to a time in my life where I guess I just wasn't able to manage on my own anymore. So I went and saw my family doctor, and she prescribed me an antidepressant, and oh my gosh, like I just felt so much better after, and you know, able to handle things better, like when issues would arise, or you know, things that would happen in my life that were stressful, I was able to handle them more and respond to them the way I wanted to respond to them, versus in an uncontrolled way by, you know, my emotions. And it's okay to feel, it's okay to react emotionally. I'm not saying that we should get rid of our emotions. I mean, just like going back to Elisa, I feel like I'm similar to her, and I want to feel everything. I want to feel things, and that's why you know, I was always wanting to try to be able to function without them. And if I could, then great. But I realized that once I started taking them again, that they were really, really helpful. And I thought, why am I putting myself through this? Why am I forcing myself to struggle when I don't need to struggle? Sorry, and I just totally spat. So why am I forcing myself to struggle when I don't need to struggle? Why are you making things difficult when you don't have to? Make things easier for yourself. Life is hard enough as it is, you know, so why are you making it harder? And I still feel like me. I still have all, like, my emotions. I have my bad days. I have my good days. I have days where I'm feeling down. I still have a fluctuation in my mood, like I did before, but it's just not as extreme, you know. And now I find that when certain situations happen, I don't overreact. I don't feel overwhelmed. I feel I can look at the situation with a clear mind. And I guess the point of me sharing this is I really want everyone to I really want it to be destigmatized. I really want mental health issues, and I feel like we are going in that direction a lot more now than back in the days. I remember back in the days, you know, everyone would make jokes about it. But you know, if someone was like cucaracha, oh, that person needs to take medication. And now, you know, with the new generation, we're a lot more respectful of things like that. We're a lot more open, which is great. So I want to continue, obviously, that conversation. And if you can't manage on your own, don't feel bad about that. Don't feel like you have failed in a way. You know, if someone needs an inhaler to breathe, that's not a reflection on the person that they are or how strong they are. They just, you know, they have a problem, and that's their solution. If you need some sort of, if you need insulin because you're diabetic, that's okay. That's something you need. If you don't use it, you're going to die. That's pretty much my video today. I just wanted to talk again more about mental health. I really want it to be destigmatized. I feel like there's a lot of people out there who suffer with mental health issues and don't get the help that they need because of the stigma around it, you know, the judgment around it, you know, you're a crazy person. I just, what did we learn today? What do we learn today? What we today? I don't know why I'm trying to add this a little bit every single time. I think it's in honor of Anthony Bourdain. Anthony Bourdain. I remember when I used to watch his video, his parts unknown and all that stuff. He would a lot of times say, "What did we learn today?" Oh, and speaking of mental health, Anthony Bourdain committed suicide. So okay, he literally had my dream job. Like, I'm pretty sure a bazillion other people. You know, if I could have a job, any job in the world, it would have been his job. To travel the world, to meet interesting, cool ass people, eat good food, see the world. Like, that's my dream job. And he killed himself. And it's because he had issues with mental health as well. Which, I mean, I don't know his story. I don't know whether he was taking medications for it. He was pretty open and talked about everything, which I think that's why a lot of people related to him. He was a very just an open, candid person. He talked about everything. He was very open about his history with his drug abuse and his struggles in the past and all that stuff. And he did talk about his mental health issues. I remember he talked about that, saying that he would struggle with having days where he would just feel, where things would happen, something would trigger him, and he would just go in a downward spiral. But he never really talked about whether he took medication or not. So, yeah. I think even that's another thing. I think a lot of times people are willing to talk about mental health issues, which is great, but they don't really talk about like the specifics, what it means. And people talk about therapy, and also like my favorite podcast, My Favorite Murder. I listen to those girls, and I really like those girls too, because they talk about mental health issues all the time. Both of them, especially Georgia, she has things that she deals with. They're always talking about going to therapy, and Georgia's always talking about like changing her medications and things like that. So, but anyways, I feel like this video is becoming really long, so I just want to thank you guys. I want to thank anyone who is watching this video, and I want to say to anyone out there who is dealing with mental health issues, please go get help. Don't worry about people judging you. And if someone is judging you, you don't need them in your life. Okay? You have to do what's right for yourself. You have to take care of yourself. Life is hard enough as it is. Why are we making it harder on ourselves? Okay. Anyways, thanks, you guys. I love you. Take care. And I'll see you soon.